All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for being with us. This is our first Living Well with Vision Loss speaker series hosted by the St. Louis chapter of the Foundation Fighting Blindness. My name is Andrea Harper. I'm the chapter engagement manager for the Heartland Midwest chapters with the foundation. I'm so excited to be with you today. Thank you all for sharing part of your Saturday morning with us. Before we get started, I'd like to briefly review some logistical details that may be helpful for today's call. Currently, all participant microphones are muted. Today's call is being recorded, and we will share this with all registrants after the meeting concludes. You will also be able to access this recording on the Foundation's website within the coming days, maybe next week sometime. If you are using a screen reader, please be aware that the controls are at the bottom of the Zoom interface. This control bar may collapse when not in use, so please make sure to move your mouse before clicking anything. If you prefer to prevent the controls from auto-hiding, you'll want to go to your settings within the Zoom platform, select Accessibility, and then select Always Show Meeting Controls. If you have questions throughout the presentation, please put them in the chat or hold on to them until the Q&A portion for each speaker. We're hoping to have brief times to ask questions after each presenter. We have a great program for you today. We're planning for a little over an hour of learning together. Before we introduce our presenters, I'd like to welcome just real quick, the staff that are joining us. From your St. Louis team, I'm proudly coming to you from St. Louis. And as I mentioned, I'm supporting the Heartland Midwest chapters with the foundation. Also part of our St. Louis Dream Team is Adam Jashik, our events manager for the Midwest. Adam, thank you for being with us. Give a little wave, Adam.
Hey, everybody.
Good morning. And then Ali Sarwark is helping us behind the scenes today, moderating the chat and letting everyone into from the waiting room. So Ali, thank you so much. Ali's our chapter engagement manager for the Midwest East chapters. So thank you so much, both of you, for being with us today. I'm going to briefly tell you a little bit about the foundation and the chapter network, and then we're going to meet the St. Louis chapter leadership team, and then we're going to get on to to join our speakers shortly after that. So hopefully everyone is still with me, because I can only see a few of you. Okay, so about the Foundation Fighting Blindness. If you're new to us, our mission, of course, is to drive research that will provide preventions, treatments, and cures for those affected by inherited retinal diseases. We are working to eradicate the entire spectrum of IRDs, including RP, Stargardts, Ushers, LCA, dry AMD, and many more. We are the largest private funder of retinal disease research in the world. To date, we have raised over $816 million towards this research. And many of you have been an integral part of helping us with that. Just a few more things to note from the foundation. Again, I mentioned $816 million has been raised for retinal research and public health education. We've identified over 270 retinal disease causing genes. We currently support over 40 active clinical trials. The foundation has funded the first FDA-approved gene therapy for the eye, Luxturna, and we have funded the first FDA-approved bionic retina. How cool is that? Okay, so enough of me talking. I guess I'll tell you a little more about the chapter network, and then we're going to meet the St. Louis team. So just very brief overview of the chapters. These are volunteer-led networks. Our chapters focus on educational outreach, resource sharing, and fundraising efforts that benefit the foundation. So we have a very engaged local St. Louis chapter. They're amazing. I'm excited for you to meet them and to hear about how they got involved with the foundation, what they enjoy about being part of the chapter, and just to get to hear from each one of them. So I'm going to start by turning it over to our president of the St. Louis chapter, Mary Morgan Corbett. Mary, good morning.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Yes, my name's Mary. I have been volunteering with FFB for about 8 years now with the events and in the way of educating and spreading awareness about living well with vision loss. I've been the chapter president in this role for about 1.5 years. And we have like you said, Andrea, a very strong and growing chapter. We work so well together. I'm personally affected with retinitis pigmentosa. I was diagnosed about 10 years ago. I'm married to an amazing man. We have 2 teenage daughters, and I'm also on staff with the St. Louis Society for the Blind and Visually Impaired, in which I have just the honor of helping others find resources to continue to stay independent, to stay hope-filled, and to live well with their vision loss. So I would like to pass it on over to Vice President Charity Kohlberg to introduce herself, and then we'll have Kyle and Tim and Amber also speak briefly. So Charity, if she's on, did she get on? We know? If not,
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Yeah. All right, Charity. You are up, friend.
Am I on?
Yes.
I'm having the worst troubles today. Hello, everybody. I'm Charity Kohlberg. I am the Vice President of the St. Louis chapter for Foundation Fighting Blindness. I have been with the Vice President for about 1.5 years. Our team is fabulous. If you guys need to know that, we remind everybody that we are fabulous. My role is to support Mary, and I am actually affected myself as well. I have retinitis pigmentosa, and I also have my daughter has retinitis pigmentosa as well. So she's 11 years old, and we're fighting for her vision. And that's just a little bit. I've been with the volunteering for about 3 years now, and it's fabulous. So I will pass it on to Tim. Unfortunately, Kyle was not able to join, so I don't know if Andrea or Mary, if you want to talk on Kyle's behalf, but I apologize.
No, Charity, that's fine. We just want to give a shout out to Kyle. Kyle Goldberg is our revenue chair, and that also a supporter of the foundation for a long time. So just a shout out to Kyle, and thank you for being the team, the husband and wife team that supports our chapter. Tim, jump on in here, my friend.
All right, thanks, Andrew.
Oh, Tim, I tried to mute me, and I muted you. Wait.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm so sorry. Start over.
I was just getting started.
I was just wanting to add some excitement. So here we go.
That was fun. The technical stuff is just such a fun part of these meetings, I know, for everyone. But hi, everybody. It's great to see everybody and hear from everybody today. My name is Tim Gillard with the St. Louis chapter. I'm the Vision Walk chair, as well as the Diversity, Inclusion, Equity, and Access chair for St. Louis. And I've been involved with the foundation for probably just about 3 years now. I started a team for the Vision Walk and raised some money with that, and then met people at the Vision Walk, and then kind of went from there. I'm really, the chapter means a lot to me. It supports me in so many ways. I try to be as involved as I can with it, and we really do have an awesome team. It's official. And I have a great support network. I have retinitis pigmentosa, IRD, RP1 gene. I recently re-looked at my genetic testing and had it uploaded to my retina tracker again. I needed to refresh my whole account, and that went really well. I got a lot of support from FFB National on that, and it was really helpful to me. I have genetic counseling next week about my genetic testing to learn more. I have 3 boys and a great support network led by my wife, who drives me everywhere and supports me in so many ways. I have 3 boys. I don't know if any of them have RP. We'll learn that. And my father and my younger brother also have RP. Thanks, and happy to be here.
Thank you, Tim. And Amber, if you're on, I know we were hoping that you would say hello too. Amber has been part of our leadership team, so I'm hoping she can say hi to everyone.
Thanks, Amber. I meant to throw it to you.
No worries. Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Amber, and I served as, co-chaired with Tim, and then also served as the education chair for about a year and a half. And recently, due to family needs and different things that have come up, I'm no longer able to officially serve in that role, but definitely still be connected with FFB and with this amazing chapter. This is such just a rich group of people that it's amazing just how we all connect. And it's such a blessing to be able to talk with people who can relate firsthand to what it's like living with vision loss. So
Amber, thank you. And on behalf of everyone, I want to thank you for filling that role so amazingly like you did. And yeah, we're not letting you go easy because you are an integral part of this team. And just your words of wisdom and just sharing your experience and your journey. So you are forever part of St. Louis leadership chapter for sure. Andrea, you want me to keep on going?
Mary, you're doing great. Just keep on going. This is a great time to introduce our guest presenters. We're so glad they're with us today. Actually, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so we can see them a little better.
Okay.
But Mary, keep on going. Doing great.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm gonna try to unmute. I'm gonna try not to mute anyone that's not not me.
But just thanks to the local leadership team, thanks to FFB staff that's joined us today. This is such an important and needed speaker series. But I have the honor of introducing our first speaker, Dr. Gettinger. I know that you are on, I see you. She's a low vision specialist. And so I'd like to just introduce her. She has obtained her bachelor's degree in biology from Truman State University and her optometry degree from the University of Missouri St. Louis College of Optometry. She completed training at the Norton Sound Health Corporation in Nome, Alaska. She received honors for her specialization in low vision, including the William Feinblum Low Vision Award. She's also completed her master's degree in public health, works with clients at the Drew's Low Vision Clinic, which is located at the St. Louis Society for the Blind and Visually Impaired, as well as within some private practice settings. It's just quite an impressive bio for sure. But just to let everyone know, we will have kind of a dialogue, just a flow rather than like a formal presentation. This is a conversation that we are all part of. So we will have time carved out after we're finished with kind of the conversation piece for questions, if you have any specifically for Dr. Gettinger. And we know, Doctor, that you're working today, so we know that we just are thankful for you to bring this little piece of time that you're able to carve out to be with us. So we completely understand if you can't stay for the duration, but we are just happy to have you today. So I think the best place to start would be just asking you the first question of how you became just involved in ophthalmology, like what sparked your interest going into the study?
Let me know also thank you for having me. Let me know if you can't hear me. I am on a new headphone and microphone set today. So
you're good.
Okay,
you're good.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. My path into optometry was a little bit non-traditional. I come from a family of artists, so none of us are really in medicine, but visual arts and vision has always been a high priority for us. When I was in high school, I just needed a summer job, and my friend's dad was our town optometrist. We lived in a really small town in the Midwest. It was Macomb, Illinois, if anyone's familiar with there. And he specialized in low vision, so that was my first introduction to it. He only did it a couple times a month, but I remember it was always my favorite day of like the month of working, because it just fascinated me. And it felt like such a thing that you could really have an impact on people's lives. Not that giving people glasses normally or anything like that isn't an impact, but just really seeing what you could do in terms of how far the scope of practice could go was fascinating to me. And I've always been kind of a puzzle, like I love puzzles, I love challenges, and I like thinking outside the box. And to me, optometry kind of provided that very wide problem solving aspect in a career that I really wanted. And low vision also provided me with just such a sense of satisfaction. And I love every single client that I get to work with. I am so lucky to be at Society for the Blind because it is basically my dream job. I love interacting with everyone there. And like you mentioned, I have a passion in public health too, which a lot of that is helping people realize that vision is such an integral part of our lives and that no one should have to be suffering from preventable vision loss or blindness, as well as making things more accessible. No one should have to be in a position where they can't accomplish what they want to do because of their vision. So that's kind of the short version of how I got into optometry and specifically low vision. But now I'm at Society for the Blind and also working in regular practice as well.
Well, I had such an honor to observe you once recently, and you're right. Like you are definitely like attacking, not attacking. That's a terrible. You are like when you're working with the patient, it is like a puzzle. But your questions were so good and they're so thorough, and like you took so much time with the individual that it was just awesome to watch. And like you said, like you picked apart just asking those great questions and finding out what their interests are and just guiding like, well, how can we help you use the vision you have best, so it was just an honor to see you do that. It was amazing to see you at work. So talk about like, what's the process? Can anyone just call the low vision clinic, or how does that work? If they're living with low vision, do they have to have a referral, or what's the process of actually visiting the clinic?
So yeah, for visiting the clinic, the main thing we need is you do have to have a medical record from an optometrist or an ophthalmologist, preferably within a year. That's kind of we have had some exceptions, but you don't necessarily need to be directly referred. But you do have to have a regular eye care provider that has seen you for a medical visit, because we do not provide medical services at Society for the Blind. So when you come in, I am not looking at the health of your eyes. My role there is to determine what you feel like you haven't been able to accomplish because of your vision, and then what do we need to do to get there. So we're not giving traditional like medical treatments in terms of like anti-VEGF injections, surgeries, things like that. So that's why it's incredibly important that you still have a medical component and that's why we need to make sure that you're still getting that care. We also like to have that record because it helps us determine if our services are actually a fit for you. Because sometimes if we don't know where you are medically, some of the stuff we have to offer may not be worth your time. And so we don't want to waste resources if it's just not even applicable to you. So we do have people a lot who just walk in to kind of view the services. We have the sites for solution shops where we have kind of like little kind of grab and go, very task specific things. But for the actual examinations, we prefer that you have, we request that you have a medical record. And essentially you start with a social worker who takes a lot of detailed information about you, including things like what your eye condition is, where you live, your current like living situation, financial status, things you're having trouble with, whether you have like someone to drive you or if you need transportation. And then they then send the referrals over, they then send the patients to us, where we try to tease out with we have a pretty broad team at Society for the Blind. We have both optometrists, and I know I saw Dr. Broderick too, who's also, I saw her in the chat earlier. She's there as well as another optometrist, as well as Dr. Bolin, but then we also have an incredibly talented team of occupational therapists, as well as technology certified individuals as well. So we have the social work aspect, and then we also have the more like clinical side of it. And I think that's one of the things that really makes the Society for the Blind a great asset that people may not realize, because sometimes you'll go to a place that says they're giving low vision resources, and all they mean is they're just handing you a magnifier and sending you out the door. And that's really a disservice to many people, because as many of you might know, that doesn't really do much sometimes, and it may make things worse actually. And so we like to take a really comprehensive approach. So you may see me for maybe 30 minutes to an hour, just really diving into assessing the situation. But then I make a lot of recommendations for the occupational therapist that might be something like, hey, I think they would benefit from a lighting evaluation. Let's talk about the lighting in their house. Let's talk about marking stairs with contrast tape, things like that, that really don't fall under the realm of what most people think is optometry in terms of just glasses or no glasses. So that's, I think, one of the things that Society for the Blind really, sometimes people don't realize when they walk in, is that it's not just a short little visit where we maybe give you a magnifier and send you out the door. We really want to make sure that we're addressing everything. We want to make sure that whatever you're getting is going to work for you, and that also you know how to use it. So we'll train people on how to use devices, and just make sure that that comprehensive level of understanding and care is there. And we also offer social activities, like I said, because that's a huge part of it too, right? Social groups. We have bingo days, we have occasional makeup courses, and just that side of it as well. So as much as I tend to highlight the medical clinical side of it, it would be remiss of me to neglect the fact that we have a huge scope of services there that sometimes I don't think people realize is there. And it's a real asset to have in this community where we are.
I love that you highlighted that, because that is exactly true. I know many people on this call have come to the low vision clinic, have had the assessment and utilized all of those resources that are available. And many have not, because of the fear of just not a denial, but just the next step, you know. And so I just want to encourage people, if you're on the fence of visiting low vision clinic, like Dr. Gettinger said, it's like just this whole team approach. And there's so much hope in that even like the shop that you talked about, that has like magnifiers and different phones and watches, it's Sight Solutions shop. So just to hear that name of the shop, that there's solutions you can find to live well with the vision loss that you're journeying through, that alone is such a huge positive way to look at things, like when you're going through a loss like this. Dr. Gettinger, I just love how you painted that whole picture. What's the most common that you see? What are the most common conditions you see as a low vision specialist?
I would probably say, I'm trying to remember because I actually did a statistical analysis like at one point. I think macular degeneration is probably one of our top conditions, which makes sense because that is one of the leading causes of low vision, especially in older adults. We do see a fair amount of RP. We also see diabetic retinopathy. Those tend to be our younger patients, while the older patients tend to be more of the macular degeneration. And that's one of the reasons why we want to also know what condition you have when you come in, because those diseases all affect the eyes in very different ways and can really affect how we approach the care that we're going to provide. But we've had all sorts. I mean, we've had all sorts of conditions, and every time I think I've seen it all, somebody surprises me, which is always, like I said, I like puzzles, so it's never like a bad thing. But you're always on your toes. But I would say the most consistent are probably macular degeneration, and diabetic retinopathy, every now and then a glaucoma.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever had to refer out and up, like to other further resources for certain conditions? Like
so we do. So we try to offer as much as we can, but obviously we can't do it all. And so I believe there is no shame in referring out to other people if they have, because my goal at the end of the day is to make somebody be able to do as much as they can, whether it's through me or somebody else. I don't care. I just want that person to be in the best shape that they can. So we do tend to refer out for certain things. For people who are interested in still working or being entered into the working world, usually rehab services for the blind has a lot more resources on that end. We also, for sort of orientation and mobility and white cane training, our current staff member in that position is sort of semi-retiring, like kind of stepping back. So right now we're referring a lot of those to other resources as well. Occasionally I'll run into somebody where maybe they came to me and they've been seeing an optometrist, but I really think they would benefit from seeing a specialized ophthalmologist, like a neuro-ophthalmologist, or somebody to just assess their situation a little bit more. Then I will refer for more medical reasons, but usually it's just for maybe a resource that we don't quite have. Or if somebody lives in a different state, we occasionally get somebody who's in a different state, and then our hands are a little bit tied because a lot of the resources that we can provide are Missouri based. And so then sometimes I will reach out to whatever state they're in and try to find an equivalent for them, just because of the limitations of what a lot of our grants and our services can provide. But yeah, at the end of the day, I'm going to try to get that person whatever they need, whoever it's through. It doesn't need to be me specifically.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And I know the society also recently received a grant to hire a driver. So that's going to expand the ability for people to get to the office and to engage in those activities and those support groups. That's huge. Any questions? I think this is a good time to lead into specific questions that you might have. Andrea, is there a certain way you want to have this run?
Well, I was going to say if you'd like to put questions in the chat, we can do that. Or since we're at the time to ask questions, if anyone wants to come off mute and ask a question at this time, we'd welcome that.
Hey, Andrea, this is Charity.
Hi, Charity.
I actually have a question. So I have been to Society for the Blind, and I think her name was, I can't remember what, today's just not my day. I'm just gonna say that, technology problems now. But I did see a doctor for low vision, and we decided that driving was not the safe option anymore, which I totally understand. I want to be as cautious for my kids and everybody else as possible. The only problem that I've seen since I had to have cataracts removed off of my eyes, and it seems like over the last couple of years, it's like my glasses, I can't seem to get the right prescription. Like I can use glasses for the computer, but it's like whenever I go to read, I have to have bifocals, and it's just like, but then whenever I try to watch TV with my bifocals in, it's just like so crazy. Would that be something that would be in your area? Like, would you address, like, if I came in and I brought all of my 9 gazillion pairs of glasses, I really don't have 9 gazillion, but would that be something in your area that you would be able to assist with?
Yeah, usually I've had people do that before too, because sometimes as your eyes develop, the pair of glasses that you had before just may not be the best design or the right prescription. Like we do check prescriptions there. We don't make glasses there, but we can check prescriptions. But yeah, sometimes it's a matter of adapting the types of glasses that you have to better suit your tasks. And it might be that maybe the lineless bifocals or bifocals maybe just aren't the option anymore because of how your eyes have progressed. And so, yeah, that's something I do run into frequently and I will just say this right now, if anyone's considering coming in, I love it when people bring all their pairs of glasses and everything they have that they're using, because the more information I have, and it's better. So do not be ashamed to bring in all those pairs. I mean, don't bring the 40-year-old pair that maybe you haven't worn in 40 years.
Right.
But that it just helps tease out the problem and try to figure out what should we be using, or do we need to scrap all of these and start fresh?
And then I have one more question for you. I still am in my 30s and I still like stylish things. And sometimes it seems like the stuff that's recommended is less stylish than everything else. And I know this may sound like a very vague question, but is there some, like, I know Maui's are really good for your eyes, but are there specific sunglasses that you recommend? Because it seems like I need sunglasses for every different day. Now that I have RP, it's just like even on cloudy days, like there's still days that I need sunglasses. So is there any types of sunglasses that you recommend, or what's your aspect on that?
Yeah, and I completely sympathize and agree that they've been a little behind the times and the trends of style, but and 100% RP, you tend to have a lot of light sensitivity. So even like the softest light, what might feel totally normal to me, like I'm sitting in a pretty dark office right now because the light above my head burnt out this morning. So, but that might seem incredibly bright. So sometimes if there's not a specific sunglass type, I do know that some of the low vision specific sunglasses, they've introduced a couple more that are maybe slightly more stylish, but usually what I would recommend, if that's kind of more of your concern, is just getting the frame that you like and putting a tint in that frame, because you can tint lenses at most opticals any tint you want, like any tint you can dream of. So sometimes in office, I will test out different levels of tints with people to figure out, okay, maybe this is the good tint for indoors, and maybe this is a better tint for like nighttime, this is a better tint for midday, or what's the best overall tint, and then taking that tint to an optical to have it put in a frame of your choice, so that you have the style at least, but then you have the tint that you actually need in the glasses, rather than the big fit over like things.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So most opticals that are worth their snuff can do a custom tint in any lens, and they can do it with your prescription usually as well. So that's what I usually recommend if style is style, but also like personal preference. Like honestly, I'm with you that like the fit of function sometimes over fashion, but if we can get the fashion too, great.
It doesn't have to be super fashionable, but just I don't want the over the glasses ones, but I know that everything is different. But thank you so much for answering my questions.
No problem.
Good questions. Any other questions for Dr. Gettinger?
Yeah, we did have a question in the chat, and
Okay.
thank you for this question, Carol. We did mention that we're titling this speaker series. This is our first one, and we're hoping to have many more, living well with vision loss. And we are the team collectively wanted to name the series that, because that's something the St. Louis team talks about all the time, is that as difficult as it may be, that's the focus, right? Doctor, when you're talking with patients that are newly diagnosed or are struggling at certain stages of their vision loss, can you share some perspectives of how you're able to guide them, and maybe kind of some of those conversations and what you say to them? Because we really, of course, we want to bring it back to the living well perspective and mindset. Is that something you can speak to or share?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll do my best. I think, and I think Carol Harris brings up a great kind of like point too, is that I run into people in all different stages of their life and in all different stages of their vision loss. And I think if you're at the point where you're starting to say, okay, what can I do to live better with this? Let's get those resources. That's already a point in your favor, because now you're open to the idea of what we have to offer. Occasionally, I will run into people where they have just been referred by a doctor and they're not ready to hear whatever I have to tell them. That's okay, because I'm still going to provide that information, because there may come a point where they are ready to act on that. But until that moment, sometimes it might be a waiting game. But if you're at the point where you're saying, okay, I have this, I accept that, what do I do now? How do I get better at this? That is where Society for the Blind, we come into play, because we specifically ask you, okay, what do you want to be able to do? That's usually my first question to patients is, what brings you in today? What are you having trouble with? What do you want to address? Because our examinations are very centered on each person and what they want to get out of it. So I don't do a cookie cutter exam, same thing for every person. So if somebody says to me, I can't read my mail anymore, or I can't email my grandchildren, I want to be able to do that. That is what I zero in on. That is what we focus on. If somebody says, I want to be able to interact with more people and like talk to people who are like me, then we maybe gear towards social interaction groups, or a specific kind of gearing towards that line of it. So I can't necessarily say to a vague like how to live better with low vision, other than just know that there are resources available. There are so many resources available. And I think that's where sometimes people get a little lost, unfortunately, because we have not in the past done a great job as a society and as from optometry, at least from my perspective, of making people aware that low vision resources are available. They are there. And you shouldn't have to search as hard as you do for them, but they are there. And if you're in doubt, even if you're like, I don't know if they could help me with this, ask us, talk to us, because at the end of the day, it's better to ask and just hear, I'm sorry, that's not, but maybe we can try a different thing, than to just sit there and wonder and wonder and wonder about it. I'm looking at the chat. Are there support groups? You experience vision loss, people you can talk to about the daily stressors and problems? Yes, there absolutely are at Society for the Blind. We have several. We used to have some virtual ones. I think they're all back in person now, as far as I'm aware. We also have a telephone, like volunteer telephone line, where if you're just wanting to talk to people, we do have volunteers who will call and talk to you as well. But we do have actual like support groups. Usually I think they have specific kind of topics and things that kind of bring them together. I don't know, Mary, if you can talk more on that from your knowledge, but.
Yeah, I know that they have a phenomenal like 8-week, and I think that we're moving towards having that back in person. And that's for anyone who just needs that commonality, coming together, talking about resources and just the psychological kind of changes that happen, you know, as you're dealing with more vision loss. There's also a new program they're starting, which is if you've already gone through kind of some support groups, or you are maybe years into your vision loss and you just need to keep talking about it, because it is a journey, and you might be good for a while and then you have another dip and then another form of progression. So there's the need to keep talking. There's the need to just keep story, and your needs change, right, as your progression changes. So we've talked extensively about that is vital, to just keep talking. And it's not like you've arrived and you've accepted this vision loss and you don't need to, you know, address it anymore. It is something that's ongoing. And just for mental health, it's so important to talk with other people that understand the journey and the walk. So the society is really starting to like recognize, like, how do we support through the journey, not just in chunks that could put a Band-Aid on, you know, what you're going through, but just throughout the whole journey of vision loss. So that's something that we see as needed, and there's definitely great conversations happening there. Also, our local chapter has a shared vision. We try to do monthly, sometimes it's bi-monthly based on schedules or what's offered. It's just called Shared Vision. And we are sharing our vision. We're sharing our vision stories. We're sharing resources. We're just helping one another, just doctor information, what we learn. So we titled it that just because that's what it's all about. It's about sharing with one another. That is a link we can certainly send out, Carol, if you're interested in that. And we just meet on Zoom and we just chat. Sometimes we have special speakers and such too, but so we just know there's a need to keep the conversation going. So.
This is great. This is great conversation, and we have time for maybe one more question. Carrie, you had your hand up.
Yes,
would you like to?
I didn't know if you were acknowledging it that way or not. So because I wanted to let you be aware that I am a facilitator for the peer support group at the society. Meets on the second Thursday of the month, and we discuss a number of topics at 10 o'clock to 11:30 in the morning on the second Thursday of the month, and we have a good group of people. It's really good.
Well, that's wonderful, Carrie. Thank you so much for.
I'm so glad you shared that.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. And if that Carol wants to get a hold of me, my number's on the it's on the activities list or activities line.
Okay.
Excellent.
We'll put that together for sure. Thank you, Carrie.
Well, this is great.
Yeah, Dr. Gettinger, I just want to thank you. I know that your time is short and valuable today, but just sharing with these Midwest chapters and your expertise, that's just that it's possible just to hear it's possible to live well, with vision loss. These are such important conversations to have. So we're honored that you were able to join us today. So thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you again so much for having me. And I as much as weird as it says to say, I hope I see some of you.
Yeah.
I'm happy to see some of you, and I'm always happy to answer questions as well. And I am obviously somebody who loves to chat a lot about this topic. So always happy to help out when needed. So I appreciate you all. I have to run to work.
Thank you. We thank you
so much. And Mary, thank you. That was wonderful walking us through that. And as we're talking about, if there's other questions, feel free to put those in the chat as we're talking as always, and we can get those passed on to Dr. Gettinger later. But we're so excited to welcome our next presenter. Charity, I'm going to turn it over to you to welcome Jason. And Jason, we're so glad to have you from MindsEye Radio to hear about the programs and what you're offering to help us all live well with vision loss. Charity, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yes, we are so pleased to welcome Jason Frazier, President and CEO of MindsEye Radio. Jason has been in MindsEye Radio since 2012 in various roles. He started as a part-time board operator for the radio station, then transitioned to the community outreach coordinator in 2013, then development director in 2015. In 2018, he became the president and CEO. And when Jason is not at MindsEye, he hosts a national combat sport podcast titled Down Goes Frazier. Jason typically spends his free time at home and with his family in Muscoda, Illinois, and he doubles as a pre-K kindergarten basketball and t-ball coach for his son Price's team. Jason, thank you so much for being with us today, and I am so proud of everything that you do. Thank you, Jason.
I'm very happy to be here and talking with you all today, and I'm just thrilled to hopefully give some people more information about MindsEye and hopefully help people find ways to live well and today with vision loss.
Excellent. Take it away, Jason. We're so glad you're with us.
So I'll go ahead and get started. Like I said, I was going to do the full PowerPoint thing, but I think I'm going to stay away from that because I think I've got a couple things I want to make sure I go over today. So I know some of you who are on the call may be very familiar with MindsEye because we have been around now for 49 years. Next year will be number 50. No one's counting. No, you got to prepare for those things, those 50th anniversary things. But when MindsEye first started back in the day, MindsEye was just a radio reading service. It was founded by Father Bonnie Winbrink. Someone came to him one day and said, hey, there's this thing to a radio chapter that reads newspapers, magazines, books for people who are blind or visually impaired. And he wasn't a radio expert, didn't really know anything about, didn't know anything about blind or visually impaired people, but knew this service could help people and decided to launch it and go forward with it. And what appealed to me from MindsEye, kind of talking about, a little bit about my journey with the station. I got here, when I came here in 2012, I was just graduating from SIUE with a mass comm degree, looking for somewhere to go start a job. I also started working at 101 ESPN. Also, when I came here, it was kind of a full, and I don't say full circle thing for me. If you're familiar with the Belleville, Illinois area or the Lady Area Snows of Shrine, most people know is where there's a big Christmas lights display. I call rush hour traffic now. That's where in December, because when the line starts going, I got to figure a way to get out of here. But, I grew up going to Catholic schools around here. It's a Catholic institution. So I remember coming here all the time. But more importantly, growing up, my grandmother that lived with us, she was visually impaired. She lost her vision due to diabetic retinopathy. As I joke, because one of the programs we offer is audio description now, I grew up audio describing The Price is Right. I didn't even know it. I was just like, yeah, Grandma, there's a crazy person running down to go hug Bob Barker. They almost tackled him. I didn't know that's what I was doing at the time, but I was providing that service back then. So kind of when I first started here at MindsEye, it was almost like I think what motivated me to like do more than just be the part-time board op was I thought about all the listeners and all the people we serve is almost like my grandma. Like this is helping someone like her further, their lives. So when we started doing, when I was here, we were only doing the radio reading service. Consistently still doing that now, reading newspapers, magazines, books. It has evolved quite a bit. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But I knew there were other ways that we could make a more inclusive community for blind and visually impaired people in this region. So we learned about audio description. We were already doing beat baseball, which some of you may be familiar with. So now we do those 3 programs where we serve people and try to make sure that we are offering services to the community that someone who's blind or visually impaired can be a part of St. Louis, be a part of their area, be a part of their region. And now this region seems like it's expanding for us because of some of our programs are now going to more national type levels. So I'll start off a little bit with our broadcast programs. We did talk about that. It's the kind of the starting point for MindsEye in 1973. Some of you probably had that little small radio box. It has an SCA knob, and you can turn it on as one knob, and you hear our signal playing in 70-mile radius from where the tower is located in South County. There's a big radio tower next to our building. I always tell people, as long as it falls to the right, we're still on air because it won't fall in the building. So our tower, we actually come up with a signal from South County, so that signal goes 70 miles in each radius. So on that radio signal, you can pick up, if you have one of those boxes, you can pick up the Wall Street Journal, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, grocery store ads, which I think, when I tell people about that, it's kind of that wow moment for someone who's sighted. Because most people are like, grocery store ads, well, why read those? But I tell people, as you go into the store, I never do any smart shopping, which is why I don't do any of the shopping in the household. I just go in and pick what I see the yellow sticker say sell $2.99 or something of that nature. And if you can't see those signs, how can you make those decisions as a shopper to save money? Or when you're doing the Black Friday ads, we read those as well. So a lot of things we read on MindsEye, that printed word to make sure that people can make good decisions, not only for entertainment value, like we read Rolling Stone, we read hunting and fishing magazines, because those things are still important to people who did have that once and they were doing those things in their lives. So we want to make sure they continue to do those. We read cooking shows, but we also read things that educate and help for consumer information too as well on the radio station. Now we're also offering offerings on the radio side too, where we have programs that are led by people who are visually impaired, because we also want that kind of educational value. We want to have programs that are led by people who would typically be listeners. For example, we have a program called Blind City. It's hosted by Langford Cunningham, and he talks about his journey with vision loss, because 4 years ago, he didn't have any vision issues. He woke up one day, vision start really deteriorating, and next thing you know, it was gone pretty quickly. And he was, I think, a former prison guard, but he always says a statement, which I find, he's like, as a man with vision, I had no vision. As a man without vision, now I have plenty. Because he started looking at different ways of the world, how to interact. He hosts this show now where he's interviewing people from all over the country and high platforms. I'm jealous of him. He's interviewed Deion Sanders. I'm a sports person, so I'm super jealous that he's got a chance to have Deion on this show. But we have him under MindsEye leading the podcast. We also have a show called Talk Description to Me. And that show's pretty powerful in a sense that you have someone who is visually impaired. It's actually hosted by 2 people in Toronto. So our hosts are in various places. So it's about 2 people in Toronto who one is visually impaired, Christine, and one is a trained audio describer, JJ. And Christine will ask JJ about different topics, what's happening in the world, what's going on, like from a basis of one of the most powerful episodes they did recently was the stuff happened in Ukraine. So from someone who's hearing about this in the news, who's visually impaired, all these images, all these things, what does it look like? What's going on over there? And JJ describes those for her. They did a pretty powerful episode this year on 9/11, or last year on 9/11. because, from someone who's sighted like myself, who remembers that day when I was in my sophomore year of high school, sitting in the cafeteria and thinking, what's going on? And remember, those things have been ingrained. But for someone who's visually impaired, helping them learn like what
is standing up in
where those images like,
No,
or
this
just something as simple as 4th of July. But yeah, we tried to transition the station quite a bit, just not only in the programming side, but also on how you receive the station. So that radio box I talked about used to be the only way you could get MindsEye. You had to have that special radio box that we would send to you free of charge to anybody who had any issues, who needed that box. Also for anyone who's print impaired too. So if you had like a stroke or Parkinson's, you can turn to the page of a magazine, we would send you a radio. Now we learned with technology growing in different ways that people have things in their home already available to maybe listen to our station on. We now have a way, if you have Amazon Echo, anything that has an Alexa skill, all you say is, Alexa, play MindsEye. MindsEye is available on the Alexa skill. If you have iOS phone, we now have a MindsEye app. We're one of the few radio stations and radio reading services in the country that have one. So it's kind of opened this door for people. They may not be interested in St. Louis news, but we're still reading a lot of national programming. We're still reading a lot of things that, like I mentioned, USA Today, People Magazine, just things of that nature. People can still access on that app, even if they're not in the St. Louis area. But if you're in the St. Louis area, you still get the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. You get all your local newspapers from different counties as well, Jefferson County, all the way over here in the St. Louis side, or the Illinois side to Clinton County. You can access on the app, and those are on demand. So you no longer have to listen to a 24/7 stream. You can just say, hey, I want to listen to this particular paper during this time. And you're automatically plugged into that particular publication. So we've tried to update the ways that we're offering our service from a reader or from a listener standpoint. Also, pretty soon, I feel like I should never say this because I've had this app timeline. We just developed an app and we had this timeline like, yeah, it'll be done in like 1 month. And then we had to wait because it's just technology. But we are pretty close to having another version of the app on Android too. So that should be done hopefully by May. So Android users will also be able to use the app as well coming up in May. So different ways you can listen to the station, different ways you can access information going forward with the radio reading service side of MindsEye. I was gonna say, I want to do this a little different because we have 3 programs, so it gets interesting. I know times we've buried some things. So I don't know if anybody has any questions about the broadcast side of MindsEye before I move on to kind of the audio description portion.
Yeah, if there are any questions for Jason about radio reading service specifically, now's your time. Well, or if you think of a question later, we can talk to Jason later too.
Yeah.
Jason, I have a question for you.
Sure.
So on this, is there different stations or is it just, sorry, my son just let out my dog. So now my dog Pretzel is going insane. Is the broadcast, like, is it different stations or is it just like whenever you log in, you pick different things? I'm actually going to, as soon as we get off this call, I'm going to download the app. So don't worry, I'm gonna play around with it and figure it out. But
oh yeah, there's different, like, primarily when you can listen to the live stream. This is St. Louis station, but also kind of we did expand. And I apologize, I got noise in the background. I left my house today because I was worried about my dogs and kids. And I came to the office. And outside my door, somebody's working on the shrine grounds like a leaf blower. I'm like, I can't win. So I apologize about that. So yeah, you can get in the app, and we actually now start carrying to Springfield, Illinois. So it's only one station. So our SCA feed, as I was talking about, SCA is like a sub channel from like a FM or AM radio station. So we actually air off the SCA side of 101.1 ESPN, the FM station. So that's why we had to send you that special box. If you have one of our special boxes, And people, we're getting listener surveys back. Someone was like, yeah, I was listening to the basketball game the other night. And what happened? When did you guys change formats? It's because in our radios, there's the SCA button, and you can switch it to the FM side. So sometimes some people listen to 101 ESPN, they don't realize it, but typically you have that box, it's just MindsEye. But on the app, you can listen to everything on demand. It's just the 24/7 stream, so you can listen to that way as well. But if you're in the Springfield, Illinois area, or that way, we just actually expanded our station to Springfield. So we're covering that portion. So you can actually listen to the live stream of Springfield on the app as well, if you want to switch over. And a lot of it's pretty similar to the St. Louis station, the Springfield side. Only thing that changes is we read more of the Springfield County or the Sangamon County papers like that, Champaign, than we do, of course, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch.
I'm very interested. Thank you so much for explaining.
No problem. So I'll hop in here a little bit to audio description, which I don't know how many people are familiar with audio description. If you're not, the way I like to best explain it, because it impacts me because my son is a big fan of the movie The Lion King. We've watched it time and time again. If you watch The Lion King, from the first scene where they're on Pride Rock, Simba's being born, all the animals are coming up, Rafiki's holding them over Pride Rock, where you're probably like, don't drop him, Rafiki, all that stuff. Music's playing. Audio description is basically, since there's no dialogue, someone is providing the audio, the displaying the visual elements of that scene. So you're not sitting there for 10 minutes just listening to music, not knowing where the visuals are. So that's kind of gives you an idea of what audio description does for people in maybe a theater setting or a museum setting, or now even sporting events. So in 2016, we launched a full-scale audio description program. So now our goal was to originally just be in 4 venues a month, or do 4 audio description opportunities a month. Now we're up to doing about 24 a month. And that increased during the pandemic. Because of course in 2020, all venues shuttered. We were kind of like, what do we do with this program that depends on live events? So we started doing a lot of virtual opportunities. The Muni had a virtual season. Some other places nationwide had virtual seasons, but they didn't have an audio description program in their area. So we got contracted for a lot of those opportunities. So now if you're in the St. Louis area, you go to the Muni, the Fox, Opera Theater, St. Louis, even some Cardinal games or Blues games. We offer audio description of those events. So that works. We have a trained audio describer go out there. They will be sitting in a separate part of the arena, usually with, it's kind of like a voice transmitter. We have someone who's passing out headsets and transmitters to visually impaired guests that are coming that evening. And then they go sit wherever they're sitting in the audience. Sometimes there is a range, because sometimes, like at Busch Stadium, you have to be in a close proximity to the person who's describing, just because of the outdoor nature, frequency, and stuff of that nature. But other places, you can just sit wherever you're going, your seats are, and that describer is describing all the sight gags, costumes, visual elements. If Fred Bird's in a jumbotron jumping around, they're describing that. I know with sporting events, a lot of people say, well, I have Mike Shannon, or I used to have Mike Shannon, or I have Chris Kerber. The difference is with audio description, compared to that, when you're at an event, there's not a 12-second delay. So usually you still have a delay at sporting events. So if you have someone they're scoring a goal and everybody's jumping up and down, you can be involved in the same reaction time as that person versus, hey, what just happened? Why is everybody cheering? Or the same thing when you're at a theater show and there's a family, and I know there used to be a mother, she had 2 children who were both visually impaired. She used to sit in the middle of them. And her way of kind of telling them was like, hey, this is happening on stage. Then she would turn to other kids and say, this is happening. Now they can all enjoy the show as a family because she doesn't have to do that. The describer's doing that. They're getting the same moments at the same time at these venues. But, it's just one of those things that we take. I think a lot of we take kind of arts and culture for granted sometimes, especially we have a wide scene here in St. Louis with just even the museums. If you go to Soder's Memorial, we've audio described a museum where you can go in any time. It's online. You can take an audio described tour. but we take so many of these things for granted because I remember someone saying during the pandemic, I think it was John from formerly with Metro Theater. He said, man, the one thing we miss and we have all this chaos going on is when you go to a show or you go to a sporting event, you're usually all on the same side. You're all looking to be entertained. And there's no way now people aren't actually going out and finding a way to be entertained. So we realize how important being entertained, arts and inclusion are in this community. So I'm glad we're able to offer this program because you are seeing a lot more people step up and offer audio description. Because it's still one of those things that is relatively new for mainstream, I should say. Not for someone who's visually impaired who's used it a long time, but you know, reason we launched our program when we did, because I went to audio description training in 2013. And the reason we decided, hey, it's time now to launch it is because Broadway had some issues where Hamilton was not offering audio description. It became mainstream news in 2015. Netflix was about to air Daredevil, about a blind superhero. And the whole, blind community got an uproar because they're like, hey, we can't watch this show because it has all these fight scenes that are 10 minutes, but we don't know who's kicking whose butt. So how are you going to let us in on that? So Netflix now, as a result of Daredevil, everything that's original from AD from Netflix, or everything original show from Netflix has audio description, every single show that they produce. So it's still growing, still some ways to go. I had a conversation yesterday with a venue in Springfield. I won't name them, but they want to do well, so it's not any, but they were like, oh, so we already have an ASL person. They work for this. And I'm like, no. So, you're still kind of explaining these things to people in the community to get them to understand that this is a different service. It's helping now people who are blind or visually impaired and why it's important, because sometimes people don't still understand that. Of why this service is important for, someone who's sighted. You had to kind of break it down to them for them to get it, but those discussions are becoming few and far in between compared to 2016. Now we do a thing called ACAC, which is Help That. Our ACAC is an acronym, Arts and Culture Accessibility Cooperative, where we have a forum every other month where we talk about not only audio description, but different things in the community to make venues more accessible, arts and culture venues more accessible. Whether it's talking about audio description, ASL, even the next one we have coming up on April 27th, it's about service animals. There's a lot of times I get a venue call whenever someone goes to the show, say, hey, I got someone with a guide dog here. What do I do? So this is so the venues come to these calls and we have some experts walking through like, hey, how do you cater to guide dogs at events? How do you work with service animals? So because we find out there's a lot of people who maybe they don't know, they want to help. They just need to know, they need to learn how to properly help. So that's very encouraging for the audio description side. Our describer, our arts and culture coordinator, Megan Harms, is amazing at her job. She actually just won ACB's, American Council of the Blind's, audio describer of the year for theaters and cultural events last year. She just got back last week from audio describing the Paralympics for NBC. So we're very fortunate to have one of the premier audio describers on our team, but also in the St. Louis area, pushing audio description forward. I guess I'll give you a couple of same thing with the audio description. I know it's a lot. So any questions before I keep rolling to the beat ball side of things?
Jason, this is Andrea. This is just such great information. If someone would want to access an audio transcription of a certain event or something, how can we access that? Is that something that can you just explain again how to participate?
Yeah, so we usually have a calendar on our website on MindsEyeRadio.org of full events that we're audio describing. A lot of times theaters like the Muni, for example, every Monday and Saturday is their audio description night. Opera Theater, which I want to give kudos to, and they're doing it the way that we hope that most venues can grow to. Sometimes it's just capacity. It's hard to do. Opera Theater is offering audio description for every show this season. It's going to be available at every particular show. If a patron's interested, all they do is buy a ticket from that venue. And then they can go on our website, say, hey, I'm going to Opera Theater's audio description show on June 17th. And that lets us know exactly, that they're coming. Also, we tell them how to pick up their headset at the event. We also ask sometimes for people to put down their ticket number, because we know sometimes you're running to a show, you're getting there late because of call ride or getting there late because of whatever. So that way we can also, if we know you're coming, we will go look for you in that seat to say, oh, well, we don't see him. So we can bring the headset to you if you're kind of running behind and just trying to get in the venue. But also, if there's things that you want to have audio described, if you see like, hey, I want to go to the Fox or I want to go to the Muni on Wednesday night, just reach out to us or the venue. Reaching out to the venue is always the best start of contact, because then they will usually contact us, say, hey, can you guys come audio describe on a Wednesday? We have a patron who's coming on Wednesday with her family. It'd be great for you guys to come out. So sometimes just making your voice heard at that venue, and they usually get in contact with us. Or if it's a blues game, we have a set number. We have set games that we're describing. But if somebody's like, hey, I'm interested in going to next week's game, can I get an audio describer because I'm going with my kids? If we can make it happen, we usually will try very hard. It's most times if someone asks us even the last minute, I won't tell you to do that. At least give us about 72 hours. We'll usually try to find a describer to get out there.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, I don't see any questions in the chat, and I don't see any hands raised. So bring us home, Jason, with the beat ball. Let's hear it. Let's hear it. So
beat ball is the last thing on the agenda. Some of you may be familiar with beat ball. Beat baseball is a game that is an adaptation of baseball for blind or visually impaired players. MindsEye had been doing a fundraising recreational tournament for like 10 years, or probably longer than that before I even got here. And that was all we did would be baseball every year. Once a year, we did that tournament, gave a chance for visually impaired players, sighted players to try out the game. And then in 2017, we just started doing beat ball demos at schools for kids who are visually impaired in their school districts, or schools who want to do like disability awareness activities. So we started adding that to the program. And then late 2019, someone said, hey, St. Louis should be represented in the Beat Ball World Series where all these teams show up. We need representation, and we want to have a good team to go. At first, I said no. I will be honest, like I don't know, that's a lot to take on. But I think they kind of knew that sports is my thing, and kind of tug on my heartstrings a little bit more. And we eventually said, hey, we're going to do this program. We're going to launch the Gateway Archers. So the area is represented by a national beat baseball team. They go out and compete in many different tournaments nationwide. I think right now before the Beat Ball World Series, we have 21 games on our schedule. We're going to Athens, Georgia next month to start off the season, and Indianapolis a couple times. And the schedule's pretty busy. Let's put it that way. But for beat baseball, for people who don't know, the pitcher's actually on the batting team. So the pitcher saying ready, set, pitch. The batter's trying to listen to that cadence to make contact. If they're lucky to do so, there's a controlled base on first base side and third base side, and they don't know which one they're supposed to run to. It's controlled by an operator. When they hit the switch, they have to get to that base that's buzzing before the blindfolded fielders retrieve the beeping ball. So that's just a little intake about beat baseball. So when we do our recreational tournaments, we allow teams to have sighted and visually impaired players. We put a blindfold on everyone, no matter if you're fully sighted 20/20, if you're total dark, if you're in the middle with maybe some with RP, we still put a blindfold on everyone to kind of even out the playing field. When you do these national tournaments, your players have to have a certain level of visual disability, somewhere in that range, to be considered a player. Only way someone sighted can step on the field and swing a bat is if your team is down to 5 players, because you start with 6. You have to have 6 players. That's the only way someone can step on the field who's sighted, unless they're the pitcher, catcher, or one of the two spotters. Last year, we went into the Beep Ball World Series ranked 17th. We finished 9th in the top 10. We should have finished higher, but we won't talk about officiating today. We won't talk about officiating. We should have finished higher. We hope have goals to do so this year. Have a great team of not only, as I say, as I tell the team, I like them all as players. They're some of my favorite athletes on the planet, and I'm not just saying that. I'm one of those people. I can tell you every Cardinal player. I can tell you every Blues player. I can tell you most, but like now, I find myself just watching beat ball games from other cities. I know who the best players are, and I've fallen in love with the sport from that level too. But I also enjoy them as people. That's where I think my first thing of wanting the best from them, not only as players, but as people, from getting to know them for this whole year. Because with beat baseball, I've been forced to be a little bit more hands-on, not forced. I like going out there. I'm at every practice. I help coach the defense. I go on all the trips. So even like going to different tournaments and having players with me, I've learned more about their stories and learned more about how they need different assistance. I learned a lot, like last year where I was in the store with a player, just picking out some groceries, and the floor was checkered. It was a checkered floor, and they have RP. So usually they don't really put their hand on my shoulder, don't need any assistance. They're like, hey, the light from this floor is bouncing off these checkered squares is killing me. So that process of learning more about people we serve has helped me through beat baseball, from being around those players all the time. Also, the thing that I didn't take away from just having this team represent the St. Louis area and play beat baseball and play, it was also the way they've come together. They have a message group. They do activities together. Even one of our pitchers who's sighted, she's 16. She's a high school wrestler. The team, the guys got together, used car ride, Uber, and went to one of her wrestling tournaments. And then they're like, oh, we need someone to audio describe some of the things. So I showed up for, to make sure that was done. But yeah, it's just one of those things that's just a part of the program that we didn't take into account. Now we're launching a junior archers program where we'll be going to different places and getting kids involved, whether it's at schools or different places around this area too. So even Southeast Missouri, Southwest Missouri, even on the Illinois side, down at the School for the Blind down there, we've done some demos. But just getting young people involved in this game that can change their lives, not just by putting them on the field, but the things they can do off the field by having that community around them of other people and other players. So I think that wraps up for me on programs and all we do at MindsEye. If you ever want to know any more about beat ball, audio description, the radio reading service, please feel free to contact me anytime. My email, I can definitely share that. It's jfrazier@mindseyeradio.org. Also, for more information on our programs, go to mindseyeradio.org. You can learn more about all those programs and maybe some things I didn't even get a chance to mention to you today.
Jason, thank you so much. Wonderful information about MindsEye. And I put this in the chat, but I'll be sending more information out via email probably next week with the recording of today's presentation. And I'll be sure to include MindsEye radio information. Jason, what a wonderful overview of programming. I know there's a lot more MindsEye does, but thank you for summarizing for us. If anyone has any questions for Jason, please hop on real quick, let us know, or we can get questions to Jason after the fact. Again, thank you so much for all of this. In closing, I just want to share one more quick slide with you. Doing this now. Again, we're so thankful that everyone was able to join us today for our first of many St. Louis chapter hosted speaker series. We've heard from wonderful presenters today, and hopefully this was helpful and informative for you. If you'd like to get involved with our St. Louis chapter, we have many ways to do that. You've already started by coming to this program today. We have ways to volunteer. You can become a chapter leader. You saw how great the leadership team is. So if you're interested in learning more about that, please contact me or anyone on the leadership team. You can assist us with professional outreach, get involved with local events. For other ways to participate, we had talked earlier about support groups and opportunities to network with others with that are on their vision loss journey. And the foundation is hosting a Midwest Community Connections call. This is just an opportunity to network with others that have different stages of vision loss. This call will be on Thursday, April 7th at 6 p.m. Central on Zoom. And I'll send out the information for that in the follow-up email. There's going to be a lot in this follow-up email, so hope you guys read it. And then we'd love to see you at our St. Louis Vision Walk. That'll be Saturday, October 1st. There'll be more information coming out on that as well. And finally, just a plug for the Foundation's My Retina Tracker registry. This is an incredible, we have a no-cost genetic testing program that the Foundation has. It's open to anyone with a clinical diagnosis of an inherited retinal disease. By getting tested, we can increase the number of gene-specific therapies that are being developed and connect patients to potential clinical trials. And the way we do that is through the My Retina Tracker registry. What a mouthful to say. So if you have questions about that, you can email coordinator@myretinatracker.org. And just one more time, I just want to give a round of applause for both of our speakers, for Dr. Gettinger and for Jason Frazier with MindsEye. Thank you all for joining us today. We hope this has been informative and helpful to you. As I've already said, here's some of our foundation partners that we're so happy to be affiliated with and connected with. So I'm going to stop sharing. And again, thank you so much. Jason, thank you for putting your email in the chat. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, a wonderful Saturday. And we'll see you next time we do this, hopefully.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Bye.
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 Have a good
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.